I was going to just delete this comment and move on because I have a no engagement with trolls rule. But then I realized instead of responding to this guy, I can make a video about this guy. Just kind of analyze this comment and explain to you why I find it so hopeless and pointless to try to engage with Trumpers about Trumpist politics. Basically, what I intend to show you is that there is so much that either is wrong or irrelevant with this one comment that ultimately there's no point here for me to even respond to. The context here is a little while ago I made this video here where I said I think a big part of the reason why it's so difficult to have sane conversations about government spending in the United States is people on the ideological left have no problem saying, yeah, there exist some problems that government should not be solving. But people on the ideological right just cannot say the phrase, yeah, there are some problems for which government is the best solution. To say the left can concede to the right's viewpoint, but the right cannot concede to the left's viewpoint. So how are you ever going to get anywhere trying to come to a consensus? And this guy left this comment. I asked every lefty this question. Why is federal spending up 56% since 2019 while inflation is up 24, GDP is up 33? No one even attempts to answer. Will you? This is why we need those. So you can see the first problem right off the bat, right? The guy is instantaneously trying to change the subject. His comment is irrelevant to the point that I'm making in the original video. I'm assuming he's trying to change the subject for the same reason that anybody is ever trying to change the subject. He has no response to the point that I'm making, but he's triggered about the point that I'm making. So he's trying to bait me into some sort of argument about a completely different topic that he thinks he's got something to say about. Second of all, look at the way he's trying to frame the question. He's trying to frame it as if there's like a left-leaning and right-leaning answer to a math problem. Sir, if one person is telling you that 2 times 2 equals 4 and somebody else is telling you that 2 times 2 equals 17, it's not like we got a difference of opinion and sparks are going to fly as we battle this out. Just one of the two people is just wrong. It's not that interesting. This commenter frames his question in such a way where he's trying to create a controversy where one just cannot exist. Third problem I have with this comment is why 2019? Kind of suspicious. Just pick some random year. There's no change in presidential administration happening in 2019. There's no passage of a bill that is relevant to the discussion that happened in 2019. He's trying to compare 2019 to 2025, not because there's some sort of policy change that he wants to test and analyze the effect of. He's picking a random year to try to engineer some sort of meaningless point. It's the same thing as me saying, wow, things are starting to warm up. Must be springtime. And this guy's saying, nuh-uh. It's colder right now than it was in August, so things are cooling down. You're not using August as the comparison point because it makes sense. You're using August as the comparison point because you want to disagree. Next, he rattles off a bunch of statistics, and I'm actually going to give him points here because these are basically correct, but he's kind of using them in a way that doesn't make a ton of sense, which demonstrates to me that he might know these factoids, but he doesn't understand them. First off, he says inflation is up 24%. I understand what he means here, but it's a weird way of phrasing it because inflation is a rate, it's not an index. So you'd be more likely to hear somebody say CPI is up or something like that. But whatever, I get what he means there. But then he gives me federal spending is up 56%, GDP up 33%. And yeah, that's true, but those are not inflation adjusted numbers. Trump's 2019 budget clocked in at $4.4 trillion. Biden's 2024 budget at $6.75. That's a 53% increase. The commenter said 56, but whatever, he's close enough. But 4.4 is the nominal amount. 4.4 trillion in 2024 dollars is 5.39 trillion. So having adjusted for inflation, the real increase is 25%, not 56. He made the same mistake with the GDP. This is a economics 101 rookie level mistake, forgetting to adjust for inflation, but he knew about inflation. He mentions it in the same comment. So that's pretty strong evidence that this string of statistics that he cites are not numbers that he understands or has analyzed himself or played around with himself. He heard somebody else make this argument, and he's just parroting the argument, right? And here's my next problem with this comment. So what? I mean, right around the year 2020, every nation on the planet had a big inflation spike. Every nation on the planet had a big government spending spike. Do you not remember 2020? We are literally drowning in reports and newspaper articles and Wikipedia entries explaining how large government spending projects in response to COVID cause inflation. Things like the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan, they are not one-time cash payments. They were an agreement to infuse cash into the economy over the next 3, 4, 5 years. It's 2025 and we're still just now shutting off the COVID money faucets. Understanding the inflation increase is obvious for anybody who knows what inflation is. When governments go on big spending sprees, that causes inflation. When the supply of goods is reduced and all of a sudden people are bidding up on prices, that causes inflation. During COVID, you had both high government spending and a supply shock. So obviously, there would have to be a period of hyperinflation. The US had 20-something% inflation between 2019 and 2024, but so did Canada. So did the UK. So when this commenter says, no lefty has ever answered me, I don't believe him when he says that he's asked. But also, like, why would he be asking? Why would he think it's a political question? It's a math question that you can just Google the answer to. Also, why would you need to look at new economic analysis? We have already understood the connection between government spending and inflation since like World War II. In fact, you can go in your basement where you have your collection of old economics textbooks, grab the oldest one you have, and see that even way back in 1955, the excess of purchasing power can result only in price increases. A, too much money spending in comparison with B, the limited supply of goods that can be produced at full employment results in C, bidding up the prices and ultimately wages too. There's so much economic analysis freely available on the Google machine out there about how COVID drove up national spending and how national spending drove up inflation that if you don't understand it, it's because you didn't bother to try. Are you appreciating how impossible it is to respond to this nonsense? I ask every lefty this question. Why? It's not a political question. It's a math question. Why is federal spending up 56% since 2019? Well, if you had bothered to Google it, COVID. Why is inflation up? Because spending. Why is GDP up 33%? Because government spending is up and inflation is up. Government spending counts toward a country's GDP, and 20-something percentage points of that 33 is the inflation that this guy forgot to account for. But I'm also confused about why this is included in here, because like when the GDP goes up, that's good. So what? And then the icing on the cake. This is why we need Doge. If you're falling for the Doge scam, you're so hopelessly mathematically illiterate. Elon claimed he could cut $2,000 billion out of the budget. Then he said, well, okay, maybe it'll be $1,000 billion. And so far, he's cut out 8, though a lot of that 8 is going to get put back in. A lot of those folks that he fired, he didn't have the legal right to fire. They're going to come back. Doge walked away from a bunch of government grants and contracts. People will sue the government over that. All of those lawsuits at the taxpayer's expense. But even if it stood $8 billion when you said you could find $2,000 billion, that's a big gap. Those are two very different numbers. And on top of that, just running around cutting random shit isn't making the government more efficient. It's just making it less. Efficiency would be if the American taxpayers were getting the same amount of service for less money. Doge is just getting us less service for less money. That's not efficiency. That's just less. Okay, I've been going on long enough. I gotta wrap this up. This has been a long and tedious video. It was not fun to watch, and it was not fun to make. That's kind of my point. I have spent the last couple of minutes not even refuting this guy's point, just trying to figure out what the hell point he's trying to make. Because ultimately, there is no point. It's turtles all the way down. Trying to argue with MAGA is like trying to wrestle with a cloud of smoke. You and I use language and rhetoric as a tool to make a point. But on Planet MAGA, rhetoric is just a branch of aesthetics. You and I would have a debate to try to figure out like what is true, what is correct, what are our priorities, and what should we do given those truths and priorities. But in MAGA world, rhetoric and debate are just about trying to paint one party as weak and the other party as strong, with the implication that if you are one of the strong types, we should be doing whatever it is that you say, whether it makes sense or not. And if you are one of the weak types, we should not listen to you, no matter what it is that you're trying to get across. This comment is not a point. It is just language. There is nothing being said here, which is why I'm arguing that it's hopeless, it's pointless, it's a waste of time and energy and resources to argue with these people. This guy literally does not care or understand what is good or bad economics. He just wants to feel like he's winning points in a game that no one is playing. In this comment, he demonstrates that he doesn't know or care how numbers work. He doesn't know or care how rhetoric works. He doesn't know or care what is an argument. I'm not going to respond directly to him. And I think I've demonstrated why. There's nothing there to respond to.